Go through some basics on Illustrator, and then we'll continue with your first tutorial. But just once you open up Illustrator, you should see a screen that looks something like this. Just a reminder that it's a vector graphics program, so the size of the window that you're using doesn't really matter. So for now, I'm just going to say File New, and it's going to open up a couple of options. I'm going to stick with A4, and what's going to do, it's going to bring up my canvas that's A4 dimensions. In this case, it's landscape, not vertical, which is fine too. I can always flip it around. But again, the beauty of Illustrator is if I put a graphic, I'm going to go to the square now, and I'm going to draw my square here. Is if I put it off the screen, on the screen, however I do it, my canvas is, even though you see this, you see the canvas over here, it's essentially infinite, so I can put it anywhere I want. This is what's actually going to print, but again, don't worry about the initial size. Again, the beauty of vector graphics is that you can make them as small as you want, as big as you want, and they always look clear. So one thing you'll notice is that in this case, I have my outline is black. So you see the outline stroke here. This is called the stroke, is black, and then the inside, I'm going to click on that stroke thing. The inside is white. I can change that by selecting my square that I just drew. Make sure that you have the main cursor. This is called the selection tool, the one that's filled in black selected. So click on your box, and then if I double click on this color, I can now change it to different colors. Now I'll see red over here. My outside is still black. So if I want to change this, I can click this. And then in this case, you go to the outline stroke. It's black. Double click on that. And then let's change it to something outrageous like this neon green. Click on that. And now I have a neon green outline. You might not see it properly, and one way to see it clearer is if you go, it's red, and an outside that's neon green. Okay, so we talked a little bit about, so again, just make sure you understand the idea of these colors. Inside, fill color, this is called, and this is the stroke color. You have two selection tools. I mentioned the first one is the primary selection tool, and what that lets you do is click on your graphic and click on and move it around. The other selection tool, the one next to it here, it's called the direct selection tool. If you click on that, what that lets you do is click on specific vector points. So you'll see that you have these, in this case we drew a square, so you have these different corners. So there's 4 vector points. So if we click outside the square, and then we click on here, we can now manipulate the specific vector point. So again, the main selection tool is to move the whole square around. The direct selection tool is if we want to manipulate specific vector points around the page. Okay, so that's basic vector graphics. And you'll notice that, for example, if I use a tool, let me just use the paintbrush tool or maybe a pencil tool. Let's just see, where's the pencil tool? I think it's somewhere here. Yeah, let me take the pencil tool. I'm going to draw some random shape like this. The same thing applies here. I have automatically, it gives me a stroke color. If I double click on the fill color, choose a color, I'll see that it's going to fill in. Does that make sense? The outside is the stroke, inside is fill. And if I now click on this, I'll see that now, because my shape is slightly more abstract, I see a lot more vector points. But the same thing applies here. I can manipulate these vector points. Okay, that's the basics of vector graphics. Okay, so then, and one thing is, we mentioned earlier that everything works in layers. So for example, this, if I put this on top of this, it's now a different layer on top of my other graphic. I can then flip layers if I want, very simply, but I think I can right-click and say Arrange, Send to Back, and that'll flip that one below that layer, and vice versa. Arrange, Send to Back. Okay, moving on, other simple stuff to do with vector graphics. So for example, so again, we talked about colors, we talked about shapes. Next is text. A couple of things I want to show you is every surface in Illustrator can become a text path. What that means is, for example, I can take my text tool. I'm going to write something abstract like this. I'm going to click on my text tool here. I'm going to hold down on it and say Type on Path tool. If I click down on this and click on the path, you'll see that I can actually now use this specific path that I just drew as a text path. So, and I can make it bigger if I want. So I'm going to double click on this. Sorry. And then let's make the size a bit bigger. Let me go to Type, Size, and increase the size. But again, you see that everything is on this, and if I take the direct selection tool, I can also manipulate the path. Sorry, let me click outside, click on the path again, and I can see that I can actually manipulate the path as I want on this text path. And let me see what else we can do. The same thing applies for creating a shape. Just give me 1 second. Sorry. So there's a path here. I'm going to create a simple shape. Let me draw a really bad heart over here. So I could have had type on path like we did before, but another thing I can do is type an area type tool. What that lets me do is I can click in the heart, and now I'm actually going to type in this heart, and it's going to take the shape of this path that I just drew over here. So that's some fun stuff you can do with text. The last thing I'll show you is if I write my name. Let me just go back to the normal text tool. I'm going to write my name, Sudra, and I'm going to make it quite big. And if I do this here, actually don't ever do that. I told you not to do that. Please just let's scale it. Hold down Shift when you scale it so I'm not stretching it. So here I have my name. So you can do simple stuff like on the corners, you can drag your text to make it change shape. You can do stuff like I told you not to do, all that stretchy stuff. Please don't ever do that. But anyway, I'm going to undo it right now. But one thing you can do as well, any text can, you can create a vector graphic out of it. And the way I do that is I click on the text, I go type, and then I go to create outlines, I believe. Yes, and what that'll do, it'll create outlines of my text. So what's happened now, it used to be text. Now it's a graphic. So if I go to my direct selection tool and I click on this, I can see that I can actually manipulate the individual vector points and drag them out and play around with my typography as I wish. Okay, that's it for now. Just basics of Illustrator. See if you can play around with it. Spend some time looking at the different tools and what they do, and we'll move from there.